Let's start. Next question. How do you prove Islam does not oppress women?
What's your definition of oppression?
Oppression is oppression.
What does that mean to you? Because if that's like oppression is oppression, it's clear. It's clear by every billboard and every niqabi and like hijabi sister walking the street. It's clear.
Yeah, you put all these clothes on them and you force them to wear this hijab and 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 and
Not one of them says they're forced to do this.
huh?
I've never met one of them says they're forced to do this.
You've never met even one of them who says she's forced.
From here? No.
Hmm?
Islam is not a religion of force. Nobody's forced to do anything. If you don't want to be a Muslim, it's your choice. And Allah curses the oppressor.
I don't believe in Allah, he'll tell you that. I believe in Allah, but he doesn't believe, so you haven't said anything. Can you give me some Kleenex, please? Let's hear the women. How do you prove that you are not oppressed? If she asked you, if Margaret or Catherine came and said to you, you're oppressed. Yes, as a Muslim. So there's the respect. Okay. It's simple. If you're a Muslim woman, say, no, I'm not oppressed. Who can speak better than you? You speak for yourself. Right? It's that simple. Say, no, I'm not oppressed. Because Fox News said so. Right? Yeah, that's what he saw and that's what he's just saying. Most of them are like that, you know. They have no idea what they're saying. It's true. What he mentioned is true. Where are you getting this? Where are you getting this? That's why it's important. We are discussing this. That's why it's important for us. We have that job of clarifying those misconceptions. That's our job. If you don't do it, trust me, Fox News is not going to do any better than what it's doing now. It's that. That's our job. And that's what we planned when the Shaykh is coming. The Shaykh is coming tomorrow from Jordan. That's what he'll be talking about over the weekend. Misconceptions about Islam. Islam's a religion of terrorism. The Qur'an, is it really preserved? Is it really the book of Allah? The Prophet, is he really a prophet? Those are the issues he'll cover. Friday we have our normal halaqah. After the halaqah we'll have question and answers with the Shaykh. Okay. And he'll do the khutbah actually. Then Saturday from Asr to Isha and Sunday from Asr to Isha and Monday 1 hour before Maghrib, which is Iftar because it's Arafah. It's important that you come and benefit. It's important that you come and benefit. The Shaykh is Dr. Khalid Mansour from Jordan. He is the Vice Dean of the Department of Higher Studies. Higher Studies, meaning Masters and PhDs in University of Jordan. So all of you are welcome. You should come and benefit. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Can we start?
Yes.
We should. Yes, Akhi. If you're not able to come one day, come the next day. It should be online.
Is the Shaykh Salafi?
I don't know. It'll be my first time meeting him. Does it matter? Who's a Salafi? Really? Why are you asking me? Anyone has a comment? Just a comment on him. Yes, he should be Salafi. What does being Salafi mean? Yes, means following the way of the Salaf or the Sahaba. And we also always mention this, but don't get caught up in the groups. There's people today who call them Salafis, but they're not Salaf. By the way, Al-Qaeda calls itself Salafi. You have to know that. Seriously, but they say we're Salafi Jihadi. And then you have the others. There's a new one, someone told me it was very fun. What is it called? Salafi Liberali, the liberal Salafis. Then there's another one. You know, all this, no. Remember when we talked about this, the first two classes, we said, be Salafi, but not only in your claim. Be a practical one. Okay? We don't bring just anyone here in this masjid. We bring people who we trust. They're going to impart the correct knowledge. Where did we reach? We finished. We didn't start appendix number 4. Where did we reach in the text? We finished about Qadar, right? Okay, let's start. We have half an hour exactly. You guys need the... No, they're good. You need the punch? Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah. Wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu ba'd. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammad. Wa barik ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammad. Kama sallayta barakta ala Ibrahim wa ali Ibrahim. Innaka Hamidun Majid. We discussed in detail about Al-Qadar. And I think that was more than enough. That was point number 13 and 14. Point number 15, moving on, which is still connected to Al-Qadr. Imam Ahmad is saying, point number 14. He said, وَالتَّصْدِيقُ بِالْأَحَادِيثِ فِيهِ وَالْإِيمَانُ بِهَا لَا يُقَالُ لِمَا وَلَا كَيْفَ إِنَّمَا هُوَ التَّصْدِيقُ وَالْإِيمَانُ بِهَا. To affirm the ahadith related to it, related to Qadr, and to have faith in them. It is not to be said why or how. It is but attestation to the truthfulness of such ahadith and having faith in them. And that is Islam, submission. Number 15, he says, وَمَنْ لَمْ يَعْرِفْ تَفْسِيرُ الْحَدِيثَ وَيَبْلُغُهُ عَقْلُهُ فَقَدْ كُفِيَ ذَلِكَ وَأُحْكِمَ لَهُ فَعَلَيْهِ بِالْإِيمَانِ بِهِ وَمَا كَانَ مِثْلُهُ فِي الْقَدَرِ وَالتَّسْلِيمُ لَهُ مثل Hadith as-Sadiq al-Masduq. And whoever, this is very important, and whoever does not know the explanation of a hadith and whose intellect does not have the capacity to make him understand it, then that will be sufficient, meaning what is sufficient? To just merely affirm the hadith and have faith in them, since everything from the religion has been perfected for him. And it is necessary for him to have faith in it and to submit to it. Like the hadith of the Sadiq, the truthful, al-Masduq, the one who is believed. And whatever is similar to it in the matters of Qadr. This is something very important. As a general rule, sometimes there's things which we cannot comprehend. A lot of hadith maybe, or some people few. Our job is to do what? He says, and whoever does not know the explanation of a hadith and his intellect does not have the capacity to make him understand it, it is sufficient for you to affirm it and to have faith in it. Since you have believed this religion is perfect, you have believed this religion is the true religion, then you should know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to you in his book, nothing in this Qur'an, nothing in the Sunnah contradicts each other. And he was never to bring things which contradict each other. Otherwise, you won't be the truth. But there's things which we do not comprehend. We can never understand because of our own intellect. Our job is to do what? Affirm them and believe in them. And this is actually mentioned in the Qur'an. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Ali Imran, فِيهِ آيَاتٌ مُحْكَمَاتٌ هُنَّ أُمُّ الْكِتَابِ. In this book, there's ayahs which are clear, explicit, and they are the majority of the book. وَأُخَرُ مُتَشَابِهَاتٌ, and some other verses which are mutashabihat, which are complex. فَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ فِي قُلُوبِهِمْ زَيْغٌ فَيَتَّبِعُونَ مَا تَشَابَهَ مِنْهُ ابْتِغَاءَ الْفِتْنَةِ وَابْتِغَاءَ تَأْوِيلِهِ. Those people in whose hearts there's deviation and sickness, they just follow these ayahs which are ambiguous because they want fitna. But as for those who believed, what do they say? آمَنَّا بِهِ كُلُّ مِنْ عِنْدِ رَبِّنَا. We have believed in this, is all from our Lord. This one which is very clear and this one which is quite ambiguous, it all comes from our God. I believe it. Because you cannot comprehend everything. Everybody's intellect is different. So when you see something which you cannot comprehend, do not have doubt in the Sharia. Have doubt in yourself. Say something is wrong with me, I have to understand it. I have to understand this matter properly. I have to ask. I have to learn. I have to do some research. But this Sharia, you accept it to accept this deen because it is the truth. Because there's no contradiction. It's clear, pristine. And there's some things you'll never comprehend. That is why it's called submission. It's called submission. He says, he gives an example. So he says this is a principle for everything in Qadr and in all other hadith, which it seems to you it is something strange which you cannot comprehend. Like he gave the example, and remember Imam Ahmad is talking in the year which is, he died in 246 or 261, that's when he died, or 264, sorry, which is a long time from today, almost 1,100 years from today. He said, he gives an example for this, like the hadith of the Sadiq al-Masduq. Which is this hadith? We have the footnote there, footnote number 7. Abdullah bin Mas'ud, he said, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he told us, this how Ibn Mas'ud, he began the hadith. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he told us, and he is as-Sadiq al-Masduq. He is the truthful, the believed one. What did he say? إِنَّ خَلْقَ أَحَدَكُمْ يُجْمَعَ فِي بَطْنِ أُمِّهِ 40 يَوْمًا نُطْفَةً. Verily the creation of each one of you is brought together in his mother's womb for 40 days in the form of a nutfa, a drop. ثُمَّ يَكُونَ عَلَقَ مِثْلَ ذَلِكَ. Then it becomes a clot of blood, an alaqa, the like of that. ثُمَّ يَكُونَ مُضْغَ مِثْلَ ذَلِكَ. Then it becomes a morsel of flesh, leech-like, which is like that. Then there is a sent for him. They sent to him the angel, who blows his soul into him, and is commanded with 4 matters: to write down the rizq, the lifespan, the actions, and whether he'll be happy or unhappy, meaning he'll go to paradise or hell. And then he said, by the one other than whom there is no deity. Verily one of you performs the actions of the people of paradise until there is but an arm's length between him and it, and that which is written, what has been written, overtakes him, and so he acts with the action of the people of the hellfire and enters it, up to the end of the hadith. 1,100 years ago, live 1,100 years, 50 years ago, people did not know the meaning of this hadith. They did not know. 50 years ago, they had no idea. Nobody knew the embryonic stages by then. Only 1984, people discovered this. Keith Moore, University of Toronto. So Imam Ahmad gave you the best example. But this hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, he explained it to his ummah 1430 years ago maybe. He explained it. So back then, the way you take this hadith is not the same way you take this hadith now, obviously, right or wrong. That's what it means, submission. But imagine people back then refuse this hadith. Let's say, imagine, some people refuse this hadith because they say, it's not possible that you're a nutfa, then you're an alaqa, then you're a mudgha. It's not possible. Some people, those who have doubt, they had doubts. And those who are true believers, they said what? As long as it comes from the Prophet ﷺ, it's authentic, I believe. Even though my intellect cannot comprehend that. Even though my intellect cannot comprehend that, I believe in it. This is what we mean. So when the Prophet ﷺ says to us, Jibreel has 600 wings. And if he was to stand, he covers the horizon. Do you believe or not? Believe. That's what belief is. So belief is. So this hadith and the examples of it, the unseen, things which a human cannot just sit and think and comprehend. It came in the Sharia, I believe. That's what Islam is. It's Islam. That's how we began. Submission to Allah. How do you submit to Allah? Whatever He said in His book, whatever He said in the Sunnah. So every one of us, this happened to you. When you were in the womb of your mother, when I was in the womb of my mother, this happened just like any other single human being. And everything has been written. You understand? Okay. So he says, it is just upon you to merely affirm the hadith and have faith in them. We'll take a small break and then come back, inshallah. You have a question? Anybody has a question? Who's studying medicine here? No doctors in the room? Kind of scary. So if I fall right now, who's going to help here? 911. Oh, that's another 8 minutes. No, don't try, please. Don't try. Don't try. This trying thing, or okay, 911 should be good. Call Hassan Osman. He's off today. I think he left already. That's another 28 minutes. You make dua for me. Make dua right now, actually. We have a lot to cover. How many appendixes do you guys have? There's one which is missing. Do you have one on philosophy? Where's appendix number 2? You have one? Can I get one? Because I don't have one. Appendix number 2. Let me get one. Give me number 2. Everyone has one? Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. He says next, point number 16. ومثل أحاديث الرؤيا كلها ونبت عن الأسماء واستوحش منها المستمع. And also like the ahadith regarding the ru'ya. Same principle. For us is to submit, testify them and believe in them, even though our intellects may not comprehend them. Also like the hadith regarding the ru'ya. What is ru'ya? Believers seeing Allah in the hereafter. All of them, which is a point we're going to discuss soon inshallah. Even if they disagree with people's hearing, and even if the one who's listening to them feels repelled by and is averse to them, it's not what the people want or they like or dislike. It's the truth, then we believe in it. فإنما point 17 فإنما عليه الإيمان بها وألا يرد منها حرفا واحدا وغيرها من الأحاديث المأثورات عن الثقات. Certainly it is obligatory upon him to have faith in them and not to reject a single word from them, nor from other such hadith which have been reported by athiqat, reliable, trustworthy narrators. Meaning if a hadith is authentic, you have to accept it, even though your intellect might not comprehend it, even though people might despise that. It's the truth, you have to accept it. That's part of our Aqeedah. Number 18, he says, وَأَنْ لَا يُخَاصِمْ أَحَدًا. Actually, maybe we should stop there and mention this. Or let's finish off. وَأَنْ لَا يُخَاصِمْ أَحَدًا وَلَا يُنَاظِرْهُ وَلَا يَتَعَلَّمُ الْجَدَلِ. And from the principles of the Sunnah, being on the correct Aqeedah, that he does not argue with anyone, nor dispute, nor should he learn about how to make al-jidal, argumentation in such matters. This is the truth, this is the truth. In Qadr, in the sight of Allah, the matters of Aqeedah. فإن الكلام في القدر والرؤية والقرآن وغيرها من السنن مكروه منهي عنه. For indeed, indulging in al-kalam, which is what? Theological rhetoric, in the matter of qadr, or the ru'ya, or the Qur'an, and other such issues are among the ways that are makruh, detested, which are forbidden. Haram, manhiyun anhu. Number 20. ولا يكون صاحبه وإن أصاب بكلامه السنة من أهل السنة حتى يدع الجدل ويسلم ويؤمن بالآثار. The one who does so, he goes into rhetoric and philosophy. Even if he reaches the truth with his words, with his philosophy and theological rhetoric, he is not from Ahlul Sunnah until he abandons using this mode of argumentation and he submits and believes in the athar. What does athar mean? The narrations from the Prophet and those of the companions, alayhim rahmatullah. Imam Ahmad is saying you won't be a person of the Sunnah until you submit. Don't go through philosophy, theological rhetoric or anything else. Then you have a footnote that says, see Appendix 2. Before we see Appendix 2, let's read those. Muhammad bin Sirin, and Ibn Sirin is one of the Tabi'een. He saw the Sahaba. He says they, the companions, and the Tabi'een, used to consider themselves upon the truth so long as they held on to the narrations, the athar. They used to consider themselves upon the truth as long as they held on to the narrations. Shadh bin Yahya said, there is no path which is more straight and direct in leading to paradise than the path of the one who travels upon the athar, narrations. And that's what we've been talking about since the beginning. Follow. Remember point number 1 Imam Ahmad mentioned was that. What was point number 1 he mentioned? التمسك بما كان عليه أصحابي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم والاقتداء بهم. Holding on to what the companions were upon and taking them as a way to be followed, taking their athar, their way. And Abdullah bin Mubarak, he said, I found that the affair was ittiba'a, following and imitation. Now, this issue is very important. That's why we go to for appendix number 2. We've been learning the Aqeedah. And some of you have had questions of how did these other people deviate? How did these other people fall into innovations in Aqeedah? How did they fall off from the straight path? How did it all start? The main reason why all these groups sprout, the main reason why people deviated is this, the point we've been talking about. Simply is what we can summarize it by saying what? Giving precedence, giving the intellect precedence over the text. Giving the intellect precedence over the texts. That is the reason why people deviated. When they gave the intellect precedence over the text meaning the Qur'an and the Sunnah. When they gave their own intellect the precedence. So whatever conforms or agrees to their intellect, they accept it. Whatever does not agree, they reject it. That is the main reason why all these groups sprout up and why people deviated. Giving precedence to the intellect. So 1400 years ago, 500 years ago, 50 years ago, you say, you know what the Muslims say? 50 years ago, the Muslims had to defend themselves on this. Today, you have to defend yourselves on those other matters we're discussing. 50 years ago, you had to defend yourself on this. You know what these Muslims say? They say the human being is created from a drop, and then it becomes this piece of flesh, and then it becomes this leech-like thing, and then it becomes a full-grown baby in the womb. People had no idea. And some rejected that because their intellects could not comprehend that. People rejected the hadith of the fly. I'm just giving you practical examples. The hadith of the fly. The Prophet ﷺ says if a fly comes to the drink of one of you, what do? You should dip it in. Because one of the wings is poison and the other wing is the antidote for that. People rejected that. And some are called sheikhs, in fact. They rejected that. But then now people have done research and modern studies, medical studies, which prove that. It's the truth. And so many other more things. But many people deviated from the beginning because they put their intellects before the text. They wanted to infuse philosophy of the Greeks with Islam. They wanted to make it all into one. It should all correlate. They wanted to make their intellects the judge. And they ended up deviating. Like we mentioned when discussing the matter of the qadr. We mentioned, they said what? They mixed up Allah's will and Allah's love. And everything else, almost all innovations, deviations in the Aqeedah is because of this. Giving precedence of the intellect over the text. Simply speaking, that's what we're talking about. And that's what Imam Ahmad has been emphasizing in these 3, 4, 5 last points. That is why the scholars of Islam were very harsh and very tough against rhetoric and philosophy. Because it was the main door why people deviated. When the Islamic lands were being expanded and Muslims started translating the books in Latin and Greek into Arabic, and they started learning philosophy also from the Indians, that's when people started deviating. Because philosophy is simply saying what? What does philosophy say? You have to see to believe. It does not exist until you can see it or touch it or smell it or feel it. That's what philosophy says. That question which they teach our children today. What is it? Why? How? That's what made people go into all these doors which they were never meant to go, and they deviated. So appendix number 2 says, it is short and is briefly a combination of the statements of the Imams on why a Muslim should stay away from rhetoric and philosophy. And remember, all that philosophy was coined and brought about by people who are mainly pagans, or even atheists, some of them, or those who used to worship a million gods. Alright? The Greeks, they have God for almost everything. Those are the people who wrote this philosophy. So what do you expect from them? How can it confer and be in line with the religion of Allah, which says only worship one God and submit to Him? It's always going to be a conflict. And philosophy is only a circle which does not end. Imam Abu Hanifa says, he said, number 1, we'll just summarize, may Allah curse Amr ibn Ubaid. May Allah curse Amr ibn Ubaid, for verily he opened up for the people a path to kalam. Kalam meaning what? Philosophy and rhetoric. In that which does not benefit them in terms of kalam. Imam Malik says, the rest you read by yourself. Al-Harawi relates from Ishaq ibn Isa, who said, Malik said, whoever seeks the religion through kalam will deviate. He will deviate. Imam Shafi'i says, or before that, point number 3 by Imam Malik is very nice. He says, and Al-Harawi relates from Abdurrahman bin Mahdi, who said, I entered upon Malik, and with him was a man asking him. So he said, it seems you are from the companions of Amr ibn Ubaid. Amr ibn Ubaid was one of the first people to introduce philosophy and rhetoric into Islam. So verily he innovated his innovation with kalam, and if kalam had been knowledge, the companions and the tabi'een would have spoken about it, just as they spoke about the rules and regulations, meaning the ahkam of the deen. If it was true knowledge, the companions would have done that. Imam Shafi'i, he said, my ruling regarding the people of theological rhetoric is that they should be beaten with palm leaves and shoes, and be paraded amongst the kinsfolk and the tribes, with it being announced, this is the reward of the one who abandons the book and the sunnah and turns to rhetoric, which is kalam. This is simply what they say, and there's lots more of quotations from them. We'll have to stop here and then continue tomorrow, inshallah. Yes. Alhamdulillah. What is number 4? It's clear, I think. Imam Malik said, beware of innovations. And it was said, oh Abu Abdullah, what is innovations? And he summarized it by saying what? It is the people of innovation who speak about the names of Allah and His attributes, and His speech, and His knowledge, and His power. And they do not remain silent about that which the companions and the tabi'een remain silent about. And these are all issues we're going to discuss. The names of Allah and His attributes. He means the people of innovation spoke on these issues in a way of which is not the right way, and they deviated. We're going to discuss that. And they spoke about Allah's speech, the Qur'an, which is next. We're going to discuss that. And Allah's knowledge. We already discussed about the Qadariyah, who denied Allah's knowledge. saying Allah only knows when the action happens. He does not know before it. And His power. They do not remain silent about that which the companions and the tabi'een remain silent on. He's again emphasizing the point that what they discussed, what they taught, what they practiced, that was the deen, that was enough. What they did not indulge on, you don't have to go there. Is it clear? Any more questions before we break for tomorrow? Inshallah. It is yours. Any more questions? Sorry? Okay, yeah. No, I don't take Advil. I have special medicine. Your clothes. Date and Zamzam water. Your clothes, not soda. Okay, guys, let's ask questions.
Okay, so what's the difference between, this kalam, this religious debating, and the debating over the questions that you asked us in the beginning of the class?
You're funny, akhi. He's asking what is the difference between the kalam, rhetoric which has been prevented, and the questions, the debate we were having. We were having a healthy debate which is no philosophy in it. I was just asking you simple questions which you get every day. What they're talking about is philosophy and rhetoric and things which you cannot understand. Still, that's what Imam Malik said. Names of Allah, His attributes. Those are things you can never know. What has come in the Qur'an, that's all you know. But if I ask you, how do you prove Islam is not a religion of terrorism? You're supposed to know that.
But some of these points are not talking about those attributes or anything like that. They're just
Which points?
debates. Like, actually, most of them are not mentioning these things about the attributes and stuff like that. Most of them are just like talking about simple arguments, religious arguments and debating.
But again, why I mentioned this, why were they so tough against it? Because this is what opened the door for the deviations. The Mu'tazila, the Qadariyya, the Khawarij, the Jahmiyya. The four major groups which came in the beginning, the four major groups of deviation, they all deviated because of this. Putting the intellect before the text. That's why the scholars after them and before them, they became very tough against anyone who goes into philosophy and rhetoric, because it only opens the door of deviation. It's like today, whoever studies philosophy, you'll see yourself, you're lost. You study philosophy, you're lost. You know, it's things which are complicated again, which is just a maze which has no way out. So we have to stop here. We have to pray in like 2 minutes. We'll continue tomorrow, inshallah.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa Allah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa Allah. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي